everybody, and welcome back to Lindsey's Little Library. So I'm here a little later than normal to do my March wrap up. So I had it all set to go and ready to film at the beginning of April, and then just some craziness occurred in the family, and you know, best laid plans had to be put aside. So thanks for hanging out and waiting a little bit longer for my March wrap up. But you know, it is what it is. Life goes on, right? So I read 2, 4, 6, 8 books in March. Kind of a little low for a March personally, because it is middle grade March and I tend to pick up a little more middle grade book, or a few more middle grade books. But I did have a fairly long one in here, but you know what, 8 books in a month is nothing to shy away from. I used to only read like 1 book a month, so I'm going to take what I can get. First one I want to talk about is The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. I did just talk about this one in my book list Thursday video, but I haven't officially done my wrap up. This is a contemporary novel by her. Rebecca Yarros is the author of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, so it's kind of like I found her backlist contemporary stuff, and actually Jen from The Bookish Blonde is the one that told me I needed to pick up The Last Letter. I feel like it was her. I'm pretty sure it was her. This one follows... Did I write down what our main characters are? Because I never remember. Ella and Beckett. So Ella's brother serves in the armed forces with Beckett, and they're like overseas. And her brother is like, hey, can you message back and forth with this other person who doesn't really have family? His nickname is Chaos, and just correspond with him via letters. So she does, and this all happens very quickly in the beginning, so I'm not spoiling anything, but Ella's brother passes away in the line of duty, and one of his like last wishes was for Chaos, or Beckett, to help support Ella now that she's pretty much by herself. Ella is a single mom of 2 kids, twins who are the cutest. I mean, you will fall in love with them immediately. But she's going through a lot with these 2 kids. Beckett does decide to come, and they meet face to face, and we all go from there. There's definitely some misunderstandings because Ella doesn't necessarily know that Chaos is Beckett and Beckett is Chaos. And so you know how that will probably end up. But I gave it, I want to say like a solid 4 stars. Definitely one I would continue with Rebecca Yarros with her contemporary work, because I didn't want to stop reading it. It was great, and it was steamy. I love me some steamy. So then we're going to totally switch gears and talk about a middle grade that I read. This is Until Tomorrow, Mr. Marsworth, by Sheila O'Connor. This one I know Amanda and Krista and Katie all love for a middle grade book. This is an epistolary book. It's all told within letters between Mr. Marsworth and Renee Kelly. I almost said Kelly, but that's her last name. It takes place during the Vietnam War. So Renee and her 2 brothers have to go live with her grandmother while her dad is working, it sounds like construction, for the summer to try to kind of get them out of some debt that they're in. And so Renee takes up a job as she delivers newspapers in the morning. And one of the neighbors she delivers to is Mr. Marsworth. And for somehow they end up corresponding to each other. They talk about family stuff. They talk about what's Renee is struggling with. They talk about the war. There's a lot of like, I mean, it's a bit heavy, yet it's so sweet to see Mr. Marsworth kind of help out Renee, and this connection between this old curmudgeon who kind of stays in his house and doesn't ever come out, and this super ambitious girl. So I loved it. What did I give it? 4 stars. So really like that too. Let's see. I'm going off my list because, you know, otherwise I'll forget. Then of course I have to switch gears. I'm all over the place in the beginning of March. I read My Darling Girl by Jennifer McMahon. This was her newest book that she came out with. This one follows Allison O'Connor, She's an artist and children's book author. Not a fan of Christmas. If you read this, this has a lot of Christmas vibes if you wanted to read it around that time. She ends up getting a call that Mavis, her estranged mother, has advanced cancer and only has weeks to live, and her dying wish is to basically come and stay with her and kind of rekindle that mother-daughter relationship. So Allison reluctantly agrees to this, brings her into her home with herself, her husband, and then there's 2 granddaughters. There's Izzy, who's a teenager, and then Olivia, who is, I don't know, 3rd or 4th grade, something like that. There's quite the history of abuse between Mavis and Allison. There is quite the history of not only physical abuse, but mental abuse, and there's just something off with Mavis. And we go from there. And we go from there. It's pretty dark. There's some crazy stuff that gets brought up that happens. I'm just gonna leave it at that because it's Jennifer McMahon. So if you've read Jennifer McMahon, you can only imagine where she goes. So then I had to lighten things up. I listened to The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise by Dan Gemeinhart. Oh, My Darling Girl, I gave 4.5 stars. Coyote Sunrise, 4 stars, probably more 4.5. I should upgrade that. This follows a lovely young girl named Coyote, as her and her father are kind of touring the country for the last, I think, 5 years, in a renovated school bus. And she calls home every so often to talk to her grandma. It's hard for them to reconnect with home because she lost her mother and her 2 sisters. And so not only is Coyote grieving, but her dad is also grieving. She finds out that a park that's very near and dear to her heart is going to be redeveloped, and her mom and her sisters hid a time capsule there. And so she needs to get back to Oregon to save this time capsule, and they're in Florida. And they have like 4 days to get back there. But she needs to trick her dad into it. And along the way, they end up picking up some hitchhikers, some other people who are kind of lost on their own journey. It is heartwarming. It is funny at times. It is really good. I really, really enjoyed that middle grade. That was definitely a winner. So then we keep going with some 5-star predictions I had to work on. So I read Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. This is the 2nd book in the Scythe series. The Scythe series, or is it Scythe? Maybe it's referred to as the Arc of a Scythe, book 2. And this whole premise is that the world as we know it has figured out how to beat every disease out there. Medical improvements to the nth degree. Like, people don't naturally die anymore. So we have to control overpopulation and still maintain, our resources. And so that's where this scythedom is kind of developed, and people are gleaned, but only by a scythe. And so once you're gone, you're gone. So this is the 2nd book in that story and what happens within that. So I can't tell you much about it other than I really did enjoy it. I gave this 4 stars. There's definitely some wild rides that happen, and it's so great. So now I just need to, read the last one at some point in time. It's fine. Next one I picked up was a middle grade nonfiction. This was for the middle grade March. This was their, what do they call it? Oh my goodness, Lindsay. Like, everybody read this together. You know what I mean. This is by Nicholas Day. This was surprisingly very enjoyable. This one I also gave 4 stars. It is the story of the heist of the Mona Lisa, and basically how this one event at this very specific moment in time with these very specific characters involved is what made the Mona Lisa the Mona Lisa. So it does go back a little bit to Leonardo da Vinci. We get to know him a little bit and kind of how the Mona Lisa came to be, and then this heist that happened. Really, really entertaining. Got a little bit detailed at one part, but overall great. And like illustrations were awesome. It was, I will recommend this over and over. This was a really good book. Then I picked up a book off of my NetGalley shelf on my Kindle. I read A Girl Called Samson by Amy Harmon. And if you watch my vlog, I could never remember the name of that book. I don't know why. But this follows Deborah, and she is an indentured servant to a family of all these boys. And so she helps she connects with these boys and helps raise these boys, and they all kind of start going off to fight in the Revolutionary War. And she's like, I can provide more to this country than sitting here mending socks. So she decides to go and dress herself as a boy and sign up and go fight in the Revolutionary War. I gave it 3.5. There were times I was a bit bored. There were times where I wasn't always loving where the story was going. Overall, good story. Definitely enjoyed it. There was a couple parts where I was just like, nah, it was fine. And then the last book I picked up for middle grade March is Shear and Esther's Double Dream debut. This one is totally a Parent Trap retelling, but with a Jewish twist. So we have Shear and Esther, who look exactly alike, but they didn't know each other existed up until like this moment. This moment where Shear, whose father is a rabbi, and all Shear wants to do is perform, learns about this competition that's coming to the local theater. And then Esther, whose mom is the main headliner at this theater, and all she wants to do is study the Torah. So they end up through a mutual friend meeting, and they end up switching places. And it was, like I said, Parent Trap retelling for sure, but super sweet. I loved all of the Jewish references and traditions and talk, and it was phenomenal. Gave this one 4 stars as well. I wish there would be like a second book. Like, I want to know more about these girls because they were awesome. It was super sweet. I was trying to get my kids to read it, but my girls are a little too old, well, in their mind right now. And Max, of course, is not interested, but I thought it was really awesome. So if you're looking for a sweet middle grade, but you loved Parent Trap as much, I mean, I loved Parent Trap as a kid, the Haley Mills version and the Lindsey version, you will definitely enjoy that book for sure. So, then we get to current reads. I've already read 3 books so far for April, and it's only the 11th, so it's going pretty well. It's going to take me a bit because, I have my cover on. I'm currently reading Iron Flame, which this one is big. I started a couple days ago, and I mean, we'll move that far, like, it's just going to take some time, which is fine. And I'm also listening to Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I kind of forgot that I had that as a Libro ALC, and yeah, downloaded that, and that's where I'm currently at. I just started it, so I'm not that far into it. Otherwise, I'm just trying to, get back on the reading train in April and see what I can get done. How was your middle grade March? Did you participate in it? How was your March overall as a reading month? Leave a comment below. Let me know what you read and what you really enjoyed. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I will see you next time. Bye.